Let's first get into conversation with Mr. Jai Singh. Sir, and thanks so much for your time today. Now, while there are figures talking about how much the impact to the government or to states is going to be, this is roughly around that 48,000 crore mark. Give us a sense of how you are reading into this total collection rejig, and what are your first thoughts on this entire announcement that we've heard?
Good morning, and a lovely morning indeed, a Diwali Dhamaka for all of us as consumers and as businesses. So that's my first reading. In terms of the financial impact, I think we've all going to be covering it through the day, and was covered very painstakingly by the Honorable FM and the Revenue Secretary yesterday. I think that clearly with the compensation cess going in, which itself results in a reduction on, what all of us will be paying, and over and above the multiple reductions, it is going to have a significant cut on our average spend. Earlier, the revenue neutral rate was closer to 14.4. We believe it's lesser than 10 right now. That's our estimate. But I wanted to cover that this council has something which is not being spoken about too much, but it's a huge impetus to our export sector on the GCC front and otherwise. A concept of intermediary has been done away after 2012. I can tell you on conservative estimate that every year there would be disputes of 40 to 50,000 crores of demands, which land up getting won by the companies in that courts. But I think that's something that is very critical, that it's been done away with. So all of the companies can now keep expanding their export service operations pretty hassle-free. One. Two, another thing which has been very critical in the fine print is on FMCG companies, pharma, many companies, there have been post-sale discount challenges. So businesses and MSME is going to see a relief because there's been a complete rejig and simplification of the credit note system. So to me, I think these two are out of syllabus of a rate change per se, but the path-breaking impact for businesses and a push to the economy is what I've been very excited about. And needless to say, the rate part is de minimis in terms of the excitement.
Indeed, but Mahesh, a lot of these sectors will be benefiting out of it, but at the corporate level, there are some uncertainties too, that how, as we approach towards 22nd September, the compensation says the other duties that were earlier levied, how are that going to be adjusted now? If you can help us understand that at this point in time, which are some of the key concerns that the corporates are worried about?
That's a good question. I think there are really two parts to what corporate India is looking at. One is a transitionary phase between now and September 2nd and, few weeks thereafter. And another, which is not been discussed too much, but I'm hoping gets addressed, which is an inverted duty, procedure and a formula that needs to change. So one, while it's also very heartening to note that this time around, there was a very clear comment that we will go by trust, that the benefit will be passed on and there'll be no, anti-profiting institutional way of tracking. And I think that's now more an owner's responsibility on corporate India to get it right. What this means is that today there is stock in the supply chain. How do you revise pricing for fresh stock, and how do you revise pricing that is in the supply chain? So companies are busy getting their revised pricing strategy right. There are some nuances around what if I've sold at 18%, which is natural, and that rate has dropped to 5%. What happens to the dealer in the supply chain? Do they get the 13% back if they're not able to offset? So I think those are aspects that are clearly there. And auto has a far more nuance around the compensation cess. And I think this 15 to 20 day leeway, 18 days, is going to be very helpful to industry to get that right. Moving on, I did say that I'm hoping that in the next council, if not sooner, there is an engagement with the government in terms of removing an inverted duty formula correction that needs to be done. So again, a thumbs up that inverted duty refunds will be given within 90% will be given within 7 days automatically. So that's another big announcement that is in the fine print, and ease of living, as you had earlier alluded and mentioned about. But to me, today, if I'm manufacturing a 5% product like pharma, and if I've got capital goods at 18 and I buy services at 18%, the formula doesn't give me those refunds. So I hope that the government will expand that. Maybe they also will say, let's do it very soon, but not in one go, because then we'll get a complete true benefit for businesses to pass on every single percentage point. This is in smaller cases. By and large, 90-95%, everything is going to be passed on. There'll be some cases where this inverted duty formula correction will make it a squeaky clean, full-fledged reduction.
But Mahesh, with this just two tax slab rate, that is 5% and 18%, what are your thoughts that it will increase India's competitiveness on the global platform to compete with other developed nations coming at a time where we are already having those trade headwinds? What are your thoughts, and how important this step could be in attracting more FDIs?
Spot on, and I'll give you a view that's not personally mine, but of about 1,000 participants of our Deloitte GST at 8 survey. The number one policy asked by 40% plus participants was to have a rate rationalization and simplification. So to me, it clearly will give a push to more economic activity, where with more clarity, then the companies say, okay, we don't have to worry too much about the GST rate framework. It's more aligned to global best practices of a revenue rate and an exemption in many countries. They don't have a lower rate, but our economy is very different and it's a fast growing economy. It's a right thing, and therefore, the first reaction I'm getting even from global investors and companies is that this is absolutely fantastic. They are taken by pleasant surprise that it's happened so soon and so precise. And therefore, the classification disputes are one that can take 5 to 10 years, because if there are 2 points of view, a revenue authority will do their job to protect and take a position that a product goes in a slightly higher slab, and industry will take their thing. The appeal machinery and process itself is a long one, like any taxation law. So to me, this change, which is obviously, I would call it a consumer GST council meeting this time, and it's for all of us as consumers, but it's also a very big push to the business, because these rate reduction gets it aligned to global practices and eliminates years of litigation on matters which were otherwise anyway not meant to be disputed. And therefore, I see this to give far more push to investment, not only in the sectors that have a lower rate now or otherwise. It is just about the clarity, which is far more paramount when an investor is taking a decision. So to me, this is clearly going to give that push, and that push is not going to happen medium or long term. It's going to happen in the short term.
Mahesh, thanks so much for your time. On that note, we'll let you go. Thanks for joining us.
We've also got Bipin Sapra from Ernst & Young also on the show to talk about exactly that. But Bipin, hi. Firstly, let me come to you first, because this is indeed a big fillip that one has seen from the government right now. But analyze the implications of the same for us in terms of, what could it really mean for various sectors? And more importantly, now the back-end GST calculations that one has to work with, two slabs as opposed to the earlier ones.
Thank you. I think it's and I think everybody would have said that this is a watershed movement for the Indian economy and for the GST as such. Phenomenal change, bringing it down to two slabs effectively. I think the government has made one of the boldest moves after getting the GST in. So I think the entire 12% slab goes to 5%, and the 28% goes to 18%. What we are looking at is the FMCG products, the products which are essential, whether they were at 12 or 18, they go to 5. The food products, which were there at 12 or 18, again, the entire lot of the food products has been brought down to 5%. And it's not only the cost which is going down, there were so many classification disputes which we were looking at. All of those go away. So food products, FMCG, textiles, pharmaceuticals, medical equipments, small cars, you name it. I think it's going to be a huge consumption boost for the economy as things settle down and as these products really, as the manufacturers really pass on these benefits to the customers, which is the intention. The more I talk to people, the more I hear that. Even the big cars and other products, there would be an effective there would be they would either be stagnant or there would be a reduction in the effective rates which the people used to pay. So overall, I think. And let me not forget the consumer electronics, which moved from 28 to 18. We are looking at air conditioners, we are looking at washing machines, and the whole set of things which are used in home. So for the homemaker who have aspirational values, I think it is tremendous. A lot of things would get cheaper, and this is a great time to go out.
But better compliance as well. And the entire shift and the intent that the government has had for over a decade now of the informal economy moving into the formal economy, that also takes place.
Absolutely. 5% is a rate people can understand, and they have a littleization of economy, a lot more people coming into the tax net. And there are further simplifications for MSMEs which have been provided in terms of refunds which are below 1,000 rupees. Any inverted duty which comes in, they are giving provisional refunds. The whole return system is being looked at. So a lot of structural changes also there cushioned into this whole rate rationalization, which is much more visible. But I think a lot more changes for the MSME sector.
Let me also welcome Mr. K.K. Mistry, former VC and CEO, HDFC, and independent director in several companies on the show. Mr. Mistry, indeed, the big GST reset is here, and as promised by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, to give a big boost to the consumption. The several announcements have been made. But help us, firstly, with your first take. How do you welcome this particular move? And along with that, what sort of a multiplier effect it can have in the economy as per you?
Well, it will certainly have a massive multiplier effect because, as we all know, India is largely a domestic consumption-driven economy. And if we can boost consumption, then that would more than offset the damage or whatever effect that will take place because of the tariffs. So I think it's a wonderful move. I think it's also wrong to believe that in the long term there will be loss to revenue. There'll actually be a gain in revenue because when consumption increases, the sheer amount of consumption will and reduced GST rate on that will compensate for the reduction in the rate that is taking place. So all in all, very good for businesses, very good for the economy, and it will be a big boost to the middle income households.
Oh, well, yes, indeed. But along with that, Mr. Mistry, the other thing is that how the ease of doing business will pan out in the Indian economies. If you can help us understand that there were indeed several announcements for many sectors, but what, as per you, will be the biggest beneficiary at this point in time? Any sense there?
So we've seen so many measures which are more technical in nature, which have been talked about on your channel, on the process of easing the process of easing the amount that is payable and making it easier for the SME and the businessman. So leaving aside that, the sheer fact that a measure like this will boost consumption because prices will come down will itself be a big boost to the economy.
Right. Mr. Mistry, firstly about the rationalization which has come about in the real estate multipliers, the kind of domino effect that the real estate industry per se itself has on the overall economy, do you think that will also get a fillip in particular?
Oh, yes, of course. Of course it will get a fillip. It will get a fillip. The reduction, the changes in the construction sector, in the real estate sector. See, real estate is a huge economic boost. It's the largest employment generator in the country after agriculture, because not only does it create jobs directly for construction workers, masons, carpenters, plumbers, and so on and so forth, but more importantly, it gives a huge boost to industries like cement, steel, paint, power. So there is a huge multiplier effect that kicks in when you give a boost to the construction and real estate sector. So I think the GST Council has done a wonderful job. One, in terms of ease of calculation, ease of doing business, all of that. But the sheer reduction in these rates will be a big boost to the economy.
That's the thing, right, KK? Because we were in tough demand conditions and the government has gone all out. I mean, what more could they have done to try and, give a fillip to demand right now? So other than sin and luxury goods, pretty much everything, the entire consumption spectrum is taken care of.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Yeah, absolutely. So clearly that gets a fillip. But Kiki, donning your hat in your previous avatars, do you sense that the first port of call would obviously be FMCG and smaller consumption plays as opposed to big ticket items that would see that immediate impact of the GST cuts?
Yeah, I would say cars, because we are just reaching a beginning of a festival season. So I would say the FMCG products, some of the electronic products, and maybe the cars. These are the sectors which, to my mind, will get the initial boost.
Right. Kiki, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very
Good
much.
speaking with you. Thanks so much for your time.
We have R.S. Sodhi, President at Indian Dairy Association, who's joining us on the show. Mr. Sodhi, thanks for your time. Big cuts coming in across the dairy segment. You have cuts coming in on milk, paneer, other dairy products like butter, cheese. Overall, very positive for the entire sector. What are your first thoughts and what is the impact going to be on dairy farmers?
It's superb. We had not imagined this much benefit dairy industry will get. So on behalf of Indian Dairy Association, which represent the whole dairy industry of India, cooperative, private, everybody, when Honorable Prime Minister on 15th of August announced that for common man products, GST will be reduced, we could not believe that this much benefit dairy industry is going to get. So we are thankful to Prime Minister, Finance Minister, GST Council that they have really considered the demands of 80 million milk producers of India and 1.45 billion consumers, because all these products on which GST has been reduced are consumed by the common man. I mean, right from butter, ghee, milk, paneer, condensed milk, ice cream, and cheese, I mean, we got the benefit of around 5 to 13% reduction. So if I look into the total market size of these products, so dairy industry is going to get a benefit of around 11,400 crore. But let me also assure you to GST Council that this reduction will not reduce their GST collection, because we are very, very optimistic that with this reduction, the unorganized sector, which was selling these products unpacked, unorganized way, will now come to the organized sector. Consumer will also be encouraged to buy packed branded products. So overall GST collection on the quantity will increase. So in the long term, it is good for the government, it's good for the farmers, and it's good for the consumers. And we also feel like in ghee, it will also impact the sale of adulterated products, because they were selling only unorganized way. And also it is going to make tasty nutrition very affordable for the common man. Well, you see in ghee, the price reduction, which definitely the brands are going to pass on to the consumer, will be in the range of 35 to 40 rupees per kg. So it's a good news for everyone. I mean, dairy is where any Indian can relate. Either you are a consumer or you are a producer. So we are thankful.
Mr. Sodhi, we'll come back to you, to understand the impact on the dairy sector like you were explaining our viewers earlier. But help us understand what happens to the formalized dairy sector now that the rates have been dropped, and this is a big positive coming in across the board for dairy items. How much do you think this is going to impact the unorganized dairy economy, and how quickly could the shift be towards the formalized economy?
That is the main benefit. By charging reasonable 5% GST on most of the dairy products, it is going to shift consumer from unorganized, unpacked, unbranded towards the packed branded dairy products. And that is going to bring lot of transparency in the dairy industry and efficiency. And for the benefit will go to the farmers. So they are going to get good price. And definitely it will also improve the image of dairy sector, because when you buy branded ghee of a good brand, you know that it is pure. Otherwise, if you go in unknown brand from a local kirana shop, and I can tell you 90% are adulterated. So that is going to happen. So when organized sector goes, industry goes. I mean, you were asking about the contribution increase in GDP. Let me tell you, dairy sector contributes around 5.2% to the Indian GDP. And if 20% increase happen, you can imagine how much it will increase to the GDP. And as far as I know, ghee will double in the organized sector. So that is the benefit everybody is going to get.